Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is David Davis of Porous Palms. I am an artist, a writer, a mystic, and a tarot card reader. You can find me all over social media at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, as well as YouTube, all at Porous Palms. And yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, just getting all those formalities out of the way, and we can just get right into today's video. So, as you can see by the title, this video is about learning a spiritual tradition from scratch, or how to be a good student. And I wanted to make this video because, one, as someone who is learning a spiritual tradition from scratch, I felt it was important to sort of document the process as it progresses, because that is what I wanted Porous Palms to be from the very beginning, a space of vulnerability where you can see what it looks like to start from the very beginning, to make mistakes publicly, to say the wrong things, to do the wrong things, to be corrected, to learn and grow from that and move forward and better yourself as a person and as a practitioner of whatever path you're on. So yeah, that's why I felt the need to make this video. As always, I do have my notes here, and I make sure to write down my disclaimers, so I make sure I get them all out. So the first one is, this is not an extensive list. I think there are only 5 points that I have written down. Clearly there are more than 5 points that go into a topic like this. I will most likely be doing a part 2 at some point in the future. These are just the things that I either felt comfortable sharing right now, or I don't know how to phrase this, but these are the things that sort of pop into my head right now. I've been writing this video for the past few days, and I've been sort of editing it and trying to keep it short, knowing that I would like to do a part 2. So the second thing is that I would like to point out is these points. So I'm coming from sort of an Afro-diasporic perspective. That is where my practice and my research, what my practice and my research is rooted in. So me being a hoodoo practitioner who is also wanting to one day be initiated into an ATR, an African traditional religion, that's sort of the frame of reference I'm coming from with this video. That's one of the reasons why it was sort of difficult to write this, because I wanted these points to be able to apply to everyone, regardless of what tradition you're working with. I didn't want it to be about how to practice or how to learn hoodoo or Haitian voodoo or an Orisha tradition. I wanted it to be something very general that everyone could work with and learn from. So to get right into it, because I don't want to make this video too long, I say that every time and they always end up being around like 30 minutes. We are at 3 minutes so far. We might be able to do this in under 15 minutes. So the first point, just looking over here, is to respect the tradition, whatever that tradition is. So if there are specific processes and protocols on who is allowed to do something, when something is allowed to be done, where it should be done, et cetera, follow that. And if you don't want to follow that, then maybe that tradition isn't for you. Especially if that tradition has an active and a living priesthood. So again, me coming from an Afro-diasporic perspective, if, in Haitian voodoo, a part of the initiation is, let's go to an Orisha tradition. You have to get a reading from a priest in whatever path that is. There are several Orisha traditions. So you would have to get a reading. A life reading, sort of confirming whatever Orisha, rules your head, and then how to move forward with that. If that's the way it's done, according to the religion or the religions, that's the way it's done. And you have to be initiated before you can start calling yourself and sort of go through the process and go through the sort of steps before you can start calling yourself the priest or the priestess or of this, that, and the other. That's the way it's done. So if you respect the tradition, and ultimately that's what this is rooted in, if you respect the tradition, then you will follow its protocols. And if, like I said before, if those protocols aren't for you, you can do what you want. No one is in the business of making you do anything. But, assuming you're watching this video because you care about being a good student, being a good sort of, let's just keep it simple, being a good student, I would assume that you would take the time to realize, or to sort of think about what it is you're willing to do, how many rules and regulations are you willing to deal with, how much dogma are you willing to deal with. And if you have a very low tolerance for that kind of stuff, then maybe certain paths may not be for you. So the second point, and I may bounce around a little bit, but the second point is, do not compare your progress to anyone else's. For a number of reasons. The first reason is everyone is on their own timeline. I believe in divine timing. Maybe you're not ready to accomplish whatever it is you're trying to accomplish yet. And maybe the person next to you, who is sort of, y'all started at the same time, y'all both started from scratch, maybe they are, meant to be where they are right now. And that's not for you to fight or debate. Another reason why you shouldn't compare your progress to others, especially in the age of social media, is people could be lying. You look at someone's Instagram page, for example, and you see all of their altars and all of the stuff they do on a daily basis, and they're out in the woods and they're doing this and they're doing that and all this other stuff. They might not actually be doing anything. They might just be curating something for the world to see. They might just be curating stuff that looks mystical and looks magical and looks, esoteric, but really it's superficial. So from your lens, it's like, oh my God, this person is so advanced. They're doing all this stuff. It could all be superficial. Sometimes, not all the times at all, but I've experienced this. Witnesses. Sometimes people steal pictures, people steal content. So you go on their page and it seems like, 24 hours a day they're doing work. They have, like I said, they have all their altars set up. Stuff is always burning and cooking and churning and, soaking and steep. And you're like, oh my God, like they've dedicated their entire lives to this, when they're sitting at their, desk at work, at their 9 to 5, just like you, going on Pinterest, stealing pictures of altars and of workings and stuff like that and posting it on their Instagram, passing it off as their own. So just stay in your lane. It's okay to look to other people for inspiration and to look to other people for motivation, but stay in your lane, focus on your progress. Everything happens on its own time, in its own time. The third point is, acknowledge that you will always be a student. And no matter how advanced you get, you will never know everything there is to know. I don't care how long you've been practicing it, whether it's a month, a year, 10 years, 50 years, I don't care. You are always going to learn something. You will always have something to learn. So be in a perpetual state of reading, researching, exposing yourself to new things, exposing yourself to new sort of ways of thinking, new ways of doing. You never know what you can get out of it, and maybe that one thing that you didn't think you needed, you didn't think you would ever need, and never even crossed your mind. It could be the difference between you and your ultimate potential. You thought you reached that ultimate potential, but you come across that one little nugget of information and you're like, oh my God, that just opened up an entirely new world for me. So yeah, never get to the point where you're just like, I don't have anything else to learn, because that's not true. And that's usually when life will teach you a lesson, just out of spite. The fourth thing is, we all want to be a part of something greater than ourselves. A lot of times that's why we embark on a spiritual path, especially if we're embarking on a very specific path. We all want to be a part of something greater than ourselves. We all want to be a part of a larger community, but do not force community where there is none. Okay. There are all kinds of forums and Facebook groups and all types of online and in-person communities. There may be your local magic shop that your magic or metaphysical shop that you go to get your candles and stuff like that. If that spot isn't for you, if every time you go in there you just feel off and you're not welcomed, and maybe the people, if this is important to you, is definitely important to me, maybe no one in there looks like you. You know what I mean? My tradition, the tradition I practice, is very much rooted in identity. My identity as a Black person, as an African American. So I don't necessarily, I go to other shops if the shop I normally go to doesn't have what I need, but I couldn't see myself frequenting a store where no one in there looked like me, where I couldn't look at the sculptures and see people that looked like me, of the different deities and stuff like that. I couldn't see the clientele and see people that looked like me, the owners, the people who work there. That's important to me, and I had to seek that out, and it was totally by chance. I guess I'll probably do another video on how maybe I found this place, but don't settle. And another reason why this is important, it's important not to settle, is because when you settle, you will tolerate things that you normally wouldn't tolerate because you're so desperate, because that's ultimately what forcing community and sort of settling leads to. It leads to desperation. You could put yourself in a position where you could either be taken advantage of or hurt. So giving a more specific context, we're dealing with a spiritual community. Say, for instance, I was talking about earlier how I eventually want to be initiated in an ATR. I can't be so desperate for that, like the first person I come across, who is offering that, who claims to be able to do that for me. I can't be so desperate that I find myself in a position where, I'm believing anything, where someone could say, hey, a part of this is, we have to get naked and massage each other. No, that's not true. And that also goes back to you, I guess that bleeds into the next point, which we'll get to in a minute, but you're like, no, that's not true. There are some secret parts of different initiations. I understand that stuff that will never be made public, but some stuff is just use your common sense. I guess this is like point 4.5 leading into point 5. Use your common sense, use your intuition. If something doesn't feel right, I need to fix my posture. If something doesn't feel right, especially if you've been doing the work, the spiritual work on your own. So before you've gone out to seek community, you've started working with your ancestors or your deities or whatever that tradition calls for. My tradition, ancestors come first. Before you start working with spirits of place and spirits of things and dealing with people and deities and stuff like that, ancestors come first, because that will be your first line of defense if you ever find yourself in a position where you need to be defended. You know what I mean? You need that sort of that bubble, that's ring around you, that protective, bubble. So that's something that you're just really gonna have to tap into, and that common sense will oftentimes, when you're doing the work, it will oftentimes take the form of ancestral wisdom, or let me switch that around. Ancestral wisdom will oftentimes take the form of common sense. So you'll find yourself in a situation where maybe someone is, asking you to put yourself in a compromising position physically. They may want you to do some kind of gross, sketchy stuff, where it's like, in order to be accepted into this order, you have to drink my blood, or like I said earlier, you have to get naked and massage me because I am the priest of so-and-so, and this is what the spirits want. You're like, no, that doesn't sound right. Like, not at all. That does not sound right. I don't want to do that. If they insist that is part of the tradition, and that is something you have to do, I would ask around. Don't ever be afraid to do that. I would ask around and be like, hey, I was told ABC XYZ. Is that true? You know what I mean? And you'll get some people who don't know what they're talking about, who just want to be involved in the conversation, but you'll get some people who have gone through the experience you're trying to go through, and they'll answer you. And if the answer is no, thank your spirits, because they really just got you out of a potentially awful situation that could have had long lasting consequences. And make sure you report that person, because they're a jackass. So 15 minutes. All right, we're going to do this. That's actually the last point. So we did it. Like I said earlier, my name is David Davis, writer, artist, mystic, tarot card reader. If you would like to book a reading with me, I will put that information on the screen as well as in the description box below. You could find me online at www.POROUSPalms.com. Also, like I said earlier, on social media, all at Porous Palms. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and YouTube. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. And I will talk to you folks next week. See ya.